ओम ज्ञानतिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरुवे नमः। नमः विष्णुपादाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्त स्वामिनिति नामिने। नमस्ते सारस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देशतारिणे। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंदा श्री अद्वैत गदाधरा श्रीवासादि श्री गौर भक्त वृंदा। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। So Hare Krishna, dear Prabhujis, dear devotees. So we are reading from Bhagavad Gita as it is, contents of the Gita summarized chapter 2nd. And in our last session we read the 38th verse. Now we are reading the 39th verse, another very beautiful verse. So Lord Shri Krishna, he is continuing. So he says to Arjun ji, Esha te abhita sankhye buddhir yoge त्वयिमां शृणु बुद्धया युक्तो यया पार्थ कर्मबन्धं प्रहास्यसि। एषा ते अभिहिता सांख्ये बुद्धिर्योगे त्वयिमां शृणु बुद्धया युक्तो यया पार्थ कर्मबन्धं प्रहास्यसि। एषा ते अभिहिता सांख्ये बुद्धिर्योगे त्वयिमां शृणु बुद्धया युक्तो यया पार्थ कर्मबन्धं प्रहास्यसि। So very beautiful verse. Eshaha, all these, te, unto you, abhihita, described, sankhye, by analytical study, buddhi, intelligence, yoge, work without fruitive results. Buddhi, intelligence, yoge, work without fruitive results. Tu, but, imam, this, shnu, just here, buddhaya, by intelligence, yuktaha, dovetailed, yaya, by which, Partha, O son of Pritha, karma bandham, bondage of reaction, prahashyasi, you can be released from. So thus far I have declared to you the analytical knowledge of Sankhya philosophy. Now listen to the knowledge of yoga, whereby one works without fruitive results. O son of Pritha, when you act by such intelligence, you can free yourself from the bondage of works. So in the purport, Swami Srila Prabhupada writes, according to the Nirukti or Vedic dictionary, Sankhya means that which describes phenomena in detail, and Sankhya refers to that philosophy which describes the real nature of the soul, and yoga involves controlling the senses. Arjuna's proposal not to fight was based on sense gratification. Forgetting his prime duty, he wanted to cease fighting because he thought that by not killing his relatives and kinsmen, he would be happier than by enjoying the kingdom by conquering his cousins and brothers, the sons of Dhritarashtra. So in both the ways, the basic principles were for sense gratification. Happiness derived from conquering them and happiness derived by seeing kinsmen alive are both on the basis of personal sense gratification. For there is a sacrifice of wisdom and duty. Krishna therefore wanted to explain to Arjuna that by killing the body of his grandfather, he would not be killing the soul proper. And he explained that all individual persons, including the Lord himself, the eternal individuals, they were individuals in the past, are eternal individuals. They were individuals in the past, they are individuals in the present, and they will continue to remain individuals in the future. Because all of us are individual souls eternally, and we simply change our bodily dress in different manners. But actually we keep our individuality even after liberation from the bondage of material dress. An analytical study of the soul and the body has been very graphically explained by Lord Krishna. And this descriptive knowledge of the soul and the body from different angles of vision has been described here as Sankhya in terms of the Nirukti dictionary. This Sankhya has nothing to do with the Sankhya philosophy of the atheist Kapila. Long before the impostor Kapila's Sankhya, the Sankhya philosophy was expounded in the Srimad Bhagavatam by true Lord Kapila, the incarnation of Lord Krishna, who explained it to his mother Devahuti. It is clearly explained by him that the Purusha or the Supreme Personality Purusha or the Supreme Lord is active and that he creates by looking over the Prakriti. This is accepted in the Vedas and in the Gita. The description in the Vedas indicate that the Lord glanced over the Prakriti or nature and impregnated it with atomic individual souls. All these individuals are working in the material world for sense gratification, and under the spell of material energy they are thinking of being enjoyers. This mentality is dragged to the last point of liberation when the living entities want to become one with the Lord. This is the last snare of sense gratificatory illusion, and it is only after many births of such sense gratificatory activities that a great soul surrenders unto Vasudeva, Lord Krishna, thereby fulfilling the search after the ultimate truth. Arjuna has already accepted Krishna as his spiritual master by surrendering himself unto him. Shishyasteham Shadimam Tvam Prapannam. Consequently, Krishna will now tell him about the working process in Buddhi Yoga or Karma Yoga, or in other words, the practice of devotional service only for the sense gratification of the Lord. So, this Buddhi Yoga is clearly explained in chapter 10, verse 10, as being direct communion with the Lord who is sitting as Paramatma in everyone's heart. So, very long purport, almost 3 pages. So Swami Srila Prabhupada, he continues, by such communion, this Buddhi Yoga is clearly explained in chapter 10, verse 10 as being direct communion with the Lord who is sitting in as Paramatma in everyone's heart. By such communion communion does not take place without devotional service. One who is therefore situated in devotional or transcendental loving service to the Lord, or in other words in Krishna consciousness, attains to this stage of Buddhi Yoga by the special grace of the Lord. The Lord says therefore that only to those who are always engaged in devotional service out of transcendental love does he award the pure knowledge of devotion in love. In that way, devotee can reach him easily in the ever blissful kingdom of God. Thus, the Buddhi Yoga mentioned in this verse is the devotional service of the Lord, and the word Sankhya mentioned herein has nothing to do with the atheistic Sankhya Yoga enunciated by the impostor Kapila. One should not therefore misunderstand that the Sankhya Yoga mentioned herein has any connection with the atheistic Sankhya, nor did the philosophy have any influence during that time, nor would Lord Krishna care to mention such godless philosophical speculations. Real Sankhya philosophy is described by Lord Kapila in the Srimad Bhagavatam. But even that Sankhya has nothing to do with the current topics. Here Sankhya means analytical description of the body and the soul. Lord Krishna made an analytical description of the soul just to bring Arjuna to the point of Buddhi Yoga or Bhakti Yoga. Therefore, Lord Krishna's Sankhya and Lord Kapila's Sankhya, as described in the Bhagavatam, are one and the same. They are all Bhakti Yoga. He said, therefore, that only the less intelligent class of men make a distinction between Sankhya Yoga and Bhakti Yoga. Of course, atheistic Sankhya has nothing to do with Bhakti Yoga, yet the unintelligent claim that the atheistic Sankhya Yoga is referred to in the Bhagavad Gita. One should therefore understand that Buddhi Yoga means to work in Krishna consciousness, in full bliss and knowledge of devotional service. One who works for the satisfaction of the Lord only, however difficult such work may be, is working under the principles of Buddhi Yoga and finds himself always in transcendental bliss. By such transcendental engagement, one achieves all transcendental qualities automatically by the grace of the Lord, and thus his liberation is complete in itself without his making extraneous endeavors to acquire knowledge. There is much difference between work in Krishna consciousness and work for fruitive results. Much difference, especially in the matter of sense gratification for achieving results in terms of family or material happiness. Buddhi Yoga is therefore the transcendental quality of the work that we perform. Buddhi Yoga is therefore transcendental quality of work that we perform. So, very beautiful verse and very long purport and so many points in the purport. So many concepts, so much information, almost 3 pages, but we will discuss for a few minutes. So anyways, so Lord Shri Krishna, he is saying, Yesha te abhita Sankhya Buddhi Yoga. Yesha te abhita, Yesha te, unto you, Yesha, all these. So far I have explained about Sankhya Yoga. I have explained to you Sankhya Yoga. Now Buddhi Yoga to Imam Shunu. Now you also listen to Buddhi Yoga. And Buddhaya Yuktoya Partha Karma Bandham Prahashyasi. Thus far I have declared to you the analytical knowledge of Sankhya philosophy. Now listen to the knowledge of Yoga, whereby one works without fruitive results. Karma Bandham Prahashyasi. Buddhi Yoga Tvaimam Shunu. And Buddhi Yoga only Swami Srila Prabhupada is mentioning as intelligence work without fruitive results. Yoga, Buddhi Yoga, work without fruitive results. O son of Pritha, when you act by such intelligence, you can free yourself from bondage of work. Karma bandham prahashyasi. So, all of us, we read the previous 30-35 verses and we saw that Lord Shri Krishna, and that's what Swami Srila Prabhupada is explaining in the purport. By analytical knowledge or analytical study, Swami Srila Prabhupada also writes, an analytical study of the soul and the body has been very graphically explained by Lord Krishna. So in all these verses, 30-35 verses, one can understand, and Swami Srila Prabhupada took reference of Nirukti, the Vedic dictionary. So Nirukti is a Vedic dictionary which describes the meaning of various Vedic terms. So according to Nirukti, Swami Srila Prabhupada begins the purport. Vedic dictionary, Sankhya means that which describes phenomena in detail. So Sankhya, the meaning of the word Sankhya is which describes a phenomena in detail. And Lord Shri Krishna also, in these previous 30 verses, we can see that he described in detail through analysis, through analytical study, or he gave analytical knowledge about soul. And he compared the body, soul and matter through analytical study, and he establishes the fact that Antavanti me deha nityasya yukta shariranaha. The matter is ever changing, the body is also ever changing, because the body is material, but the living entity or the soul, the living entity has got a separate existence beyond the body, which is very, very minute and which is very, very subtle, which we cannot see which we cannot perceive through our material senses, our material mind, our material intellect, and our material knowledge. So the living entity has got a separate existence, soul, which is beyond the body, and that soul or the individuality of the living being is always maintained. That soul is immutable. It is immutable and nityaha, shashvataha, all those things we saw in the previous verses. Lord Shri Krishna explained very nicely, and that's why Swami Srila Prabhupada is writing, an analytical study of soul and body has been very graphically explained by Lord Krishna. So that is the meaning of word Sankhya. But Swami Srila Prabhupada, being a pure devotee of the Supreme Lord, he is mentioning about another philosophy which was given by Swami Srila Prabhupada is writing, impostor Kapila. So some philosopher by the name of Kapil, and though the original Sankhya philosophy is mentioned in the Srimad Bhagavatam, which was given by Kapil Muni, the son of Devhuti and Kardam Muni, who was an incarnation of the Supreme Lord, Lord Shri Krishna himself. So that Sankhya philosophy, original Sankhya Yoga, is explained in Srimad Bhagavatam. And while there was a person by name Kapil Muni who gave his own mental speculation and named it as Sankhya Yoga, but that Sankhya Yoga has nothing to do with the real Sankhya Yoga. And here in the Bhagavad Gita there is another chapter by the name Sankhya Yoga, but here the word Sankhya, anyone who reads Bhagavad Gita can very easily understand what Lord Shri Krishna what the word when Lord Shri Krishna is saying Sankhya Yesha Te Abhihita Sankhya, thus far I have declared to you the analytical knowledge of Sankhya philosophy. So Swami Srila Prabhupada he is writing, which describes, Sankhya refers to that philosophy which describes the real nature of the soul. So far Lord Shri Krishna he described the real nature of the soul. Nityaha Shashvataha Ayam Purano na haryate hanyamane sharire, which is different from matter. The matter is ever changing, the material body is ever changing, and Lord Shri Krishna compared the material body with garments, and the material body is subjected to death, Kaumaram Yavanam Jara Tata Dehantar Prapti, but the soul is eternal. And that study, analytical knowledge of the nature of the soul, and with the analysis from matter, is explained by Lord Shri Krishna in the previous verses. Everybody can understand that. So Swami Srila Prabhupada in one way is giving information to everyone in this world, those who do not actually read Bhagavad Gita, and they just by hearing someone's philosophy and the words, with a poor fund of knowledge, people used to just give these arguments that okay, Lord Shri Krishna also mentioned about that Sankhya philosophy which was propounded by some impostor philosopher, but actual Sankhya philosophy is explained in Srimad Bhagavatam very wonderfully by Lord Kapil Muni, who was an incarnation of the Supreme Lord Shri Krishna, and that is also mentioned in the Srimad Bhagavatam. Lord Kapil Muni, he was an incarnation of Lord Shri Krishna, and he explained the real Sankhya philosophy to his mother Devhuti. So Esha Te Abhihita Sankhya. So Lord Shri Krishna is saying, I have declared to you the analytical knowledge of the Sankhya philosophy. Now listen to the knowledge of yoga, whereby one works without fruitive results. So yoga means actually linking oneself to the Supreme. And if one link himself with the Supreme through his work, that work is actually Karma Yoga or Buddhi Yoga. That's why Swami Srila Prabhupada is writing Buddhi, intelligence, yoga, work without fruitive results. Nishkam. When one works just for the satisfaction of the Supreme Lord. Swami Srila Prabhupada explains in the purport. Listen to the knowledge of yoga whereby one works without fruitive results. One do not work for gaining some fruitive result. Swami Srila Prabhupada explained in the purport that Arjun ji, he is thinking that by not killing his kinsman he will be more happy. So happiness derived from conquering them and happiness derived by seeing kinsmen alive are both on the basis of personal sense gratification. So Arjun ji, he is seeing in terms of his own sense gratification. He is thinking, I have to kill them, I will be more happier by not killing them. But for there is a sacrifice of wisdom and duty. Happiness derived from conquering them and happiness derived by seeing kinsmen alive are both on the basis of personal sense gratification, for there is a sacrifice of wisdom and duty. Swami Srila Prabhupada is writing in the purport. So far Arjun ji is not thinking in terms of Vedic wisdom or in terms of his swadharma or duty. He is simply thinking about his own happiness, how I will be more happy, how I should act which will make me happy. And because he is thinking that by killing them I will be unhappy, so I should not kill them. So that is the basic principle of this material world. Every living entity in this world, all of us are fallen souls, and we are working with fruitive mentality or fruitive results. We see the result, whether the result of this activity or whether the result of this work will bring happiness to me or not. And we are in the fallen state, we are considering ourselves to be this body. So ultimately we are thinking of bodies, or on the bodily platform or bodily conception of life. Swami Srila Prabhupada writes or explains in word, bodily conception of life. We are thinking about the happiness of body, which is composed of senses, mind, intelligence, and ego, false ego. So the material body has material senses, has material mind, has material intelligence, and has material false ego. And we are always thinking for their pleasures, for the pleasure of senses, for the pleasure of our material mind, for the pleasure of our material intelligence, and for pleasure of our material false ego. So this is on the bodily platform, and that's why this tendency is known as a fruitive tendency, or one work in this world for fruitive results. And Swami Srila Prabhupada, he coins the word sense gratification in one word. Swami Srila Prabhupada, he says that all of us in this material world, we are working for sense gratification. So the basic principle were for sense gratification. So Arjun ji is thinking in terms of his own satisfaction, sacrificing wisdom and duty, which are actually meant for the soul, for the satisfaction of the soul, for the happiness of the soul. If one work with a sense, if one work as per the directions of the Vedic literatures, or for the satisfaction of the Supreme Lord, then one derives transcendental bliss. That also Swami Srila Prabhupada explains in the purport. However difficult such work may be, one should therefore understand that Buddhi Yoga means work in Krishna consciousness, in full bliss and knowledge of devotional service. One who works for the satisfaction of the Lord only, however difficult such work may be, is working under the principles of Buddhi Yoga and finds himself always in transcendental bliss. So that's what Lord Shri Krishna is telling Arjun ji, Esha te abhita Sankhya buddhi yoge to imam shunu. Now you listen to the knowledge of yoga whereby one works without fruitive results. O son of Pritha, when you act by such intelligence, you can free yourself from the bondage of works. Buddhaya yukto yaya partha karma bandham prahashyasi. And what will be the benefit? What will be the benefit of working with buddhi, working in Krishna consciousness? What will be the benefit of Buddhi Yoga or works without fruitive results? One can free himself. You can free himself. Lord Shri Krishna is saying to Arjun ji, you can free yourself from bondage of works. So every action, every work in this world, every action has an equal and opposite in the material, they say. But yes, every action brings some reaction. Actions done in mode of goodness, actions done in mode of passion or in ignorance, they will all have some reactions, because of which one has to take life again in this material world, because of which in order to enjoy or suffer because of one's past deeds, because of one's actions done in previous lives, because of the resultant reactions of actions done in the previous life, one has to accept a material body in this material world to enjoy or suffer the reactions of those deeds or actions. And mostly in this material world, all of us, we are struggling very hard. Tukhalayam ashashvatam. There is no happiness as such, truly speaking. But still, one has to take birth, either to enjoy. If one does pious deeds, then he has to come or take a body again to enjoy the resultant reactions of those pious deeds. And if one commits sinful activities, then one has to take body. So all works in this material world, they create bondage, and that's why one has to take birth again and again. Dehantar praptir. In this material world, one has to accept a material body, and in ignorance one keep on working for the body, for sense gratification. All these individuals are working in the material world for sense gratification. Swami Srila Prabhupada writes in the purport. And under the spell of material energy, they are thinking of being enjoyers. All of us, we are thinking ourselves, because we are also part and parcel of the Supreme Lord. In ignorance, we think we also have got that lording over tendency, and we want to lord over the material nature. The living entity want to become the lord of what all he surveys. Master, we all want to become the masters, enjoyers. So all these individuals are working in the material world for sense gratification. Swami Srila Prabhupada is explaining, and under the spell of material energy, they are thinking of being enjoyers. This mentality is dragged to the last point of liberation when the living entity wants to become one with the Lord. So life after life, life after life, life after life, one is dragged by his sense gratificatory desires and to the point of becoming one with the Supreme. After many births, one thinks of, after enough sense gratification, one may think of dharma, artha, kama, moksha, one may think of liberation, going out of this cycle or coming out of this cycle of birth and death. But that also is contaminated with this sense gratificatory desire where one wants to become one with the Supreme Lord or merge into the one gets the knowledge that he is part and parcel of the Supreme Lord and he want to merge, or he considers himself as one with the Supreme Lord. So this is the last snare of Maya, Swami Srila Prabhupada writes, or sense gratificatory illusion. So the living entity is in illusion, he is thinking himself to be the enjoyer, but he is Prakriti, the individual souls, the fragmented parts, part and parcel of the Supreme Lord are Prakriti, whereas the Supreme Lord is the Purusha. He is the actually enjoyer, predominator, while all the living entities, they are predominated. Swami Srila Prabhupada has explained so many times, so wonderfully in his teachings. So all of us, we are actually part of Prakriti, but we are trying to become masters or enjoyers. And the last snare of Maya is, or sense gratificatory illusion, that one wants to become one with the Lord, with the Supreme Lord. Though living entity is actually in quality one with the Supreme Lord, but there is a difference in magnitude. The Supreme Lord is Ananta, is infinite, while the living entities, they are infinitesimal, very small, atomic, Anu and Vibhu, Anoraniyan Mahato Mahiyan. Smaller than the smallest and greater than the greatest. So as such, living entity can never become one with the Supreme Lord or equal to Lord. And individuality, one cannot even merge. Though living entities, Swami Srila Prabhupada explained in the purport that science is explained in Srimad Bhagavatam and other Vedic literature how this creation, Lord Kapil Muni, he explained. The description in the Vedas indicate Lord Krishna who explained, Lord Kapila, the incarnation of Lord Krishna who explained it, the Sankhya philosophy, explained it to his mother Devahuti. It is clearly explained by him that the Purusha or the Supreme Lord is active and that he creates by looking over the Prakriti. So that wonderful description is there in Srimad Bhagavatam. The Supreme Lord in his Purusha incarnation as Mahavishnu. This material creation, this material world is created and annihilated. Created, maintained and annihilated. Again and again. Creation. Vyakta, Vyakta. So this material world is always created, it remains for some time and then again it is annihilated. And after annihilation, all the living entities, they go into the body of the Mahavishnu, but they are also their individuality. remains, their individuality is never hampered. Because the living entity is avikaro, immutable, eternal, nitya, sanatanaha, all those things Lord Shri Krishna explained. But at the time of creation, he creates looking over the Prakriti. The Supreme Lord, the Purusha or the Supreme Lord is active and he creates by looking over the Prakriti. This is accepted in the Vedas and in the Gita. The description in the Vedas indicates that the Lord glanced over Prakriti or nature and impregnated it with atomic individual souls. All these individual souls are working in the material world for sense gratification. So only those souls who are there who have sense gratificatory tendency, or who want to satisfy their senses independent of the Lord, they are there in this material world. Out of ignorance, they forget their relationship with the Supreme Lord and they want to enjoy independently, and that's why they are here in this material world. And that's what Lord Shri Krishna is explaining. When you act by such intelligence, you can free yourself from bondage of work. So if one work without fruitive mentality, or when one works without fruitive result, then one can actually, because if there will be no resultant reaction, then one will not be forced to accept a material body. That means he will be liberated. If there will be no resultant reactions of one's actions, if one will work in such a way, if one will work in Krishna consciousness, or Buddhi Yoga, Karma Yoga, then one can liberate himself, because there will be no resultant reactions of such work. And that's what Lord Shri Krishna is explaining. You can free yourself from the bondage of work. Karma bandhana, one can free himself from the bondage. So this is the last snare of Maya or sense gratificatory illusion, and it is only after many births of such sense gratificatory activities that a great soul, that's why they are known as Mahatmas, surrenders unto Vasudeva, Bahunam Janmanam Ante Jnanavan, Lord Krishna, thereby fulfilling the search after ultimate truth. So that search for ultimate truth is there. All those who are inquisitive, they want to know. So only after many births, Bahunam Janmanam Ante Jnanavan, a person who is equipped with right knowledge, real knowledge, and that's why Lord Shri Krishna, that's why he is explaining that science of Bhagavad Gita to all the living entities through Arjunji. Paunam Janmanam Ante Jnanavan Mam Prapadyate. Vasudevam Sarvam Iti Sa Mahatma Sudurlubha. That will also be explained by Lord Shri Krishna in the forthcoming verses. So only after many births, a person or living entity in true knowledge surrenders to Lord Krishna. And Arjuna, Swami Srila Prabhupada is writing, has already accepted Krishna as his spiritual master. By surrendering unto himself, Shishyasteham Shadimam Praptam Prapannam. Consequently, Krishna will now tell him about the working process in Buddhi Yoga or Karma Yoga, or in other words. So because Arjunji has already surrendered, Shishyasteham Shadimam Tvam Prapannam, I am taking your shelter, please instruct me. And that is the right way to understand Bhagavad Gita. That is the Swami Srila Prabhupada explains, that is the right way. One should surrender himself. One should accept the Supreme Lord Shri Krishna as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Shishyasteham Shadimam Tvam Prapannam. And that is the right way to understand Bhagavad Gita. So consequently, Krishna will now tell him about working process in Buddhi Yoga or Karma Yoga, or in other words, the practice of devotional service only for the sense gratification of the Lord. Yeshate abhita sankhye buddhir yoge toimam shudum. Now you listen to Buddhi Yoga. Buddhaya yukto yaya partha karma bandham prahashyasi. One can free himself from the bondage of work, from the bondage of reaction, karma bandham, free from the bondage of works. Prahashyasi, you can be released from. So now Lord Shri Krishna will explain. And Swami Srila Prabhupada, this Buddhi Yoga is clearly explained in chapter 10, verse 10 as being direct communion with the Lord who is sitting in as Paramatma in everyone's heart. Tesham satata yuktanam bhajatam priti purvakam dadami buddhi yogam tam. So in the 10th chapter, Lord Shri Krishna will explain to Arjunji. Tesham satata yuktanam, those who are always satata yuktanam, engaged in devotional service. Dadami buddhi yogam tam, I give them intelligence by which buddhi yoga, I guide them directly from their heart. Dadami buddhi yogam tam, yena mamupyantete, by which they can reach me. So, but such communion does not take place without devotional service. Satata yuktanam, one who is therefore situated in devotional or transcendental loving service to the Lord. Priti purvakam. Tesham satata yuktanam bhajatam priti purvakam. Such communion does not take place without devotional service. One who is therefore situated in devotional or transcendental loving service to the Lord, or in other words, in Krishna consciousness, attains this stage of Buddhi Yoga by the special grace of the Lord. The Lord says therefore that only to those who are always engaged in devotional service out of transcendental love, does he award the pure knowledge of devotion. In love, in that way the devotees can reach him easily in ever blissful kingdom of God. Dadami buddhi yogam tam yena mam upyanti te tesham satata yuktanam bhajatam priti purvakam. So this chapter is the summary, contents of the Gita summarized. So that's what Swami Srila Prabhupada is writing. Lord Krishna made an analytical description of the soul just to bring Arjunji to the point of Buddhi Yoga. So all this analysis, Lord Krishna through analytical knowledge explained about the nature of the soul by differentiating it with matter, just to bring Arjunji to the point of Buddhi Yoga or Bhakti Yoga. Therefore, Lord Krishna's Sankhya and Lord Kapila's Sankhya as described in Srimad Bhagavatam are one and the same. They are all Bhakti Yoga. He said therefore that only less intelligent class of men make a distinction between Sankhya Yoga and Bhakti Yoga. So in this world people they say, oh no, this is Sankhya Yoga. Yoga actually means connecting with the Supreme. And all the genuine or real yogic processes are meant to connect oneself to the Supreme. Connection of individual living beings with the Supreme Lord. Connecting the soul with the super soul, that is the process of yoga. Yoga, linking. So all the yogas, so only less intelligent class of men make a distinction between Sankhya and Bhakti Yoga. So actual Sankhya Yoga, as explained in Srimad Bhagavatam by Lord Kapil Muni, which has nothing to do with Swami Srila Prabhupada 2 times he write, which has nothing to do with the Sankhya enunciated by impostor Kapila. So we should have knowledge. Many people in this world, they say so many things. This is written in Bhagavad Gita, that is written in Bhagavad Gita. That's why we should, a small book. But in this age we are so so much so to say unfortunate that we don't want to read even a small book. So that's why we should read Bhagavad Gita and we should try to understand what is written there. So Swami Srila Prabhupada, he just to protect everyone, because he is a pure devotee of the Supreme Lord and he want to protect, he is well-wisher. Like Supreme Lord, he is well-wisher of every living entity. And that's why he is again trying to teach us that we should actually read Bhagavad Gita and understand what Lord Shri Krishna, the instructions, the beautiful instructions and the wonderful instructions of Lord Shri Krishna to all the human beings, humanity at large. So one should therefore understand that Buddhi Yoga means to work in Krishna consciousness in full bliss and knowledge of devotional service. One who works for satisfaction of the Lord only, however difficult such work may be, is working under the principles of Buddhi Yoga. So if one work for the satisfaction of the Lord, however difficult it may be, however difficult that work may be, is working under the principles of Buddhi Yoga and finds himself always in transcendental bliss. One derives transcendental happiness if one works for the soul, for the satisfaction of the Supreme Lord. That is actually working for oneself or for the soul. But because we are in ignorance, we think ourselves to be this body and we work for the satisfaction of gross or our subtle body, for sense gratification. And Swami Srila Prabhupada also explains for extended self-sense gratification, for family, for relatives, for country, for society, for community. But we, in those sense gratificatory pursuits, we sacrifice wisdom and duty. So far Arjun ji, because he is playing the part of a conditioned soul, so he is denying to fight because he is thinking in terms of his own satisfaction, his material satisfaction. He is not considering in terms of wisdom, Vedic wisdom, and in terms of duty. But anyways, Lord Shri Krishna through Arjunji, he is trying to explain or give instructions to all of us that by such transcendental engagement, one achieves all transcendental qualities automatically if one works in Krishna consciousness. Buddhaya yukto yaya partha karma bandhan prahashyasi. One will free himself from all the resultant reactions, and by such transcendental engagement one achieves all transcendental qualities automatically by the grace of the Lord, and thus his liberation is complete in itself without his making extraneous endeavors to acquire knowledge. So one should, if one understands this, how to work in Krishna consciousness, then there is no need in that way to acquire knowledge. One's liberation is complete in itself. So, without his making extraneous endeavors to acquire knowledge, there is much difference between work in Krishna consciousness and work for fruitive result. And there is a gulf of difference. If one is working with a fruitive mentality, and if one work with Buddhi Yoga, if one acts as per Karma Yoga, Buddhi Yoga, or work for the satisfaction of the Supreme Lord, that work is very much different from the work which is done for one's own sense gratification or extended sense gratification. So there is much difference between work in Krishna consciousness and work for fruitive results. especially in the matter of sense gratification for achieving results in terms of family or material happiness. Buddhi Yoga is therefore the transcendental quality of work that we perform. So, Buddhi Yoga is the transcendental quality, the living entity, the soul is also transcendental in nature. It does not belong to this material world, or it is not a part of this material nature. And in the liberated state, one actually work or act only for the satisfaction of the Supreme Lord. With knowledge, one should therefore understand that Buddhi Yoga means work in Krishna consciousness in full bliss and knowledge of the devotional service. So, that is the special quality of the human beings. Dharmo hi tesham adhiko vishesho. A human being cannot act like animals on the bodily platform for sense gratification. So human beings are different from animals, and tesham dharmo hi tesham adhiko vishesho. In the Hitopanishad it comes dharmena hina pashubi samana. So human beings are supposed to act with intelligence, with knowledge, with Buddhi Yoga. One should therefore understand that Buddhi Yoga means to work in Krishna consciousness in full bliss and knowledge of devotional service. So that's why it is transcendental. Buddhi Yoga is therefore transcendental quality of work that we perform. So Lord Shri Krishna, because Arjun ji has surrendered, so he will be explaining Buddhi Yoga or about Karma Yoga, action in Krishna consciousness, to Arjun ji. And by working in that way, one can free himself from the bondage of work. And in the previous verse also, समय सुखे दुखे समय कृत्वा लाभा लाभो जया जयो तथा युद्धाय युजस्व नैवं पापम अवाप्स्यसि. So now Lord Shri Krishna will be explaining about Karma Yoga or action in Krishna consciousness for the satisfaction of the Supreme Lord. Buddhi Yoga, working without fruitive result or fruitive mentality, which can liberate, one can free himself. By working in that way, one can free himself from the bondage of work, from the resultant reactions, and liberate himself. So very beautiful verse and so many points in the purport, but our discussion is going long. So with this I would like to stop here. We'll take up another verse in our next session, and we'll try to read and understand its concepts through the beautiful purports of Swami Srila Prabhupada. So wonderful verse, Esha te abhita sankhye buddhir yoge toimam shunu buddhaya yukto yaya parth karma bandham prahashyasi. Thus far I have declared to you the analytical knowledge of Sankhya philosophy. Now listen to the knowledge of yoga, whereby one works without fruitive result. O son of Pritha, when you act by such intelligence, you can free yourself from the bondage of works. So, Jai Vishnupad Paramhans Parivrjakarya Shrotrashat Shri Srimati Divine Grace of Charnarvind Bhakti Vedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ji ki Jai. All glories to His Divine Grace, Krishna Kripa Murti Abhay Charnarvind Bhakti Vedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. All glories to Lord Krishna, all glories to Bhagavad Gita, all glories to Lord Chaitanya, all glories to Holy Name, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Nitai Gaur Prevarande, Hari Hari Bol, Hare Krishna.